Newcastle United overcame the Red Devils at St James's Park, then overcame the Blues at Stamford Bridge. Can they overcome Barcelona at the Nou Camp? Find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy will take on the shot. Fabian Sham away.
All right, folks. How are you all doing? I hope you guys are blessed and having a fantastic morning, afternoon, day, wherever you are, whatever you are doing. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and God bless you guys for that. Already, I'm looking forward to tonight's show. We're gonna mix in a little bit of obviously the Chelsea match reaction with the preview for that all important Barcelona game. Biggest game in Newcastle's history. Let me know what you guys think. Certainly in European terms, but I would say also like what's amazing is that since the takeover, we've had a number of biggest games in our history. The first final when we lost to Man United, and the second final when we beat Liverpool for the League Cup to win our first trophy in 70 years. And now again, obviously trying to qualify for the quarterfinal out of the Champions League versus Barcelona to get to the furthest position we've ever been in the Champions League. So we've been blessed to be ready, like in the space of 5 years, to be playing the biggest games and bigger in our history already. And so it's been absolutely phenomenal. We're going to be reviewing that, and we're going to be taking a look back. We're going to be looking forward to some transfer scouting and profiling for two midfielders that have recently been linked to Newcastle. We're going to be comparing them to each other and seeing which one suits Newcastle United the most, I suppose, and kind of again reviewing how this transfer window is taking shape with the latest transfer news and everything going forward. Before we get into it, always a blessing to see people, even though agents in there, even before the show started. It's always a blessing to see people here before the show started. And as no, God bless you, Adrian says, evening, Philip, and the chat, evening to you, sir. And we've got my man James here as well. Good to see you, James. God bless you. How you guys doing? I hope you guys are well. I'm very disappointed for Bodo Glimt. I just saw the score for Bodo Glimt, 5-0. What a turnaround from Sporting. Goodness gracious. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible run they had. Love to see how that game panned out. How did they give up a 3-goal lead just like that? That's incredible, really. But we are where we are, and hopefully we get to join the Champions League quarterfinal coming up. And let me know how you guys feel about that game. Now, before we well, should I do the look? Should I? All right, let's get into the. I wanted to have a quick look at the table before we do the reaction to the Chelsea game and kind of merge that into the preview game coming up as well. But I want to get you guys' thoughts. Make sure you guys can see this. Boy, I'm so excited. I'm so loving the setup. Literally the mic. Obviously, hopefully you guys. I know you guys can hear me loud and clearly. The camera's working. I can't. In fact, I can tell you because you guys have been long suffering with me with my camera, with my sound, and my technicals and everything else like that. So I can't tell you just how comfortable I feel presenting to you at this moment in time. Like there isn't like a nerve in my mind like thinking it's gonna go off, what's gonna happen. Like it's such a blessing. Anyway, so I wanted to look at the league table since we obviously won the game. I'm gonna have to zoom in a little bit here, but what's interesting is that we are currently ninth. 0 goal difference of 43 goals scored, 43 conceded. That's incredible, especially at this stage of the season. 30 games played, 12 wins, 6 draws, and 12 losses. Now, with 8 games to go, I think it's 8 games, right? Is it 8 or 9 games? 8 games to go, I think. Because I can never tell. When it's on the 30, does it mean we've played 30 or we're on our 30th game? Because if we're on our 30th game, then we've got 9 games to go. In fact, while I'm talking to you about it, why don't I just find out for myself? How many games? Because this goes. It's important because this goes into what I'm talking about. Newcastle United. Can we get the matches? Let me share this tab with you guys. How many matches? Hopefully, we've got a lot more if we stay in the Champions League, which we will. I'm sure we will. Obviously, some of the next. Gee, that's going to be good. And obviously, we've got the international break coming up after the Sunderland game, so we want to make sure we win that game. We don't want to be going into the international break seething. So, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Brighton 5, Forest 6, West Ham 7, Fulham 8. So it is 8. All right, so it is 8 games. I just want to confirm that. It's got 8 games to go. We have, which makes it 24 points left to play for. 24 points to play for, which is a lot of points still. And I guess what's interesting about that is if we look at the league table, from now I'm going to leave out Aston Villa. They're on 51 points. You know, they're still 11 points away from us, even though they have huge concerns at the moment that they're literally dropping fairly rapidly. Obviously, they just lost to Man United 3-1. Now, Liverpool on 49, Chelsea on 48. So 49, Chelsea, they're 7 points ahead of us. Sorry, Liverpool on 49, 7 points ahead of us. Chelsea are 6 points ahead of us. Brentford are 3 points ahead of us on 45 points with plus 4 goal difference. And Everton are a goal ahead of us. A point ahead of us on a -1 goal difference. So at the very least, God willing, it should be FC beat Sunderland. We will beat Sunderland. We must beat Sunderland at St James's Park. We should be going into the international break at least in 8th position, which is really, really good considering where we are. So I just wanted to look at the table, get your thoughts in, and let me know what your thoughts are. I'm of the mindset that from this position, with 8 games to go, we have a good chance of. Obviously, we've got more chance of getting into the Conference League. Slightly less chance, but still good chance. Slightly less, but still a good chance to get into the Europa League. And a lesser chance to get into the Champions League, but that seems to be in the air at the moment. What's interesting is trying to work out all the pathways. Like, say Villa finish 4th, but they win the Europa League. That means they qualify for the Champions League as well. So does that mean there's an extra team that goes into the Champions League? How does that work? Or if Arsenal win the Champions League, does that mean that goes down as well? I don't know if Palace are in the Conference League, they're going to the Europa League as well. Does that mean there's one less spot? Like, is it really 6 rather than 7 positions? Is it 8 positions? It's so difficult to know at this time. And I think the closer we get to, I hope we put all of that to rest by just finishing in a fairly good position, in a firm position, like 6th potentially. I'd love for us to finish 5th, obviously. But we're in good form, we're in good nick, and this leads us to the Barcelona game, which I think is going to be so important. But before we do that, we did have a fantastic victory against Chelsea. Now, We did obviously the match preview with our man Bobby Fairview. God bless Bobby Fairview. Then it was a fantastic show with him. And you know, you would have heard my cautious optimism. No, not like I was very cautious about the game. As I was cautious against for the Man United game, I just wasn't. I was concerned that you know how would we be playing away and everything else. But I also said that I remember Bobby was saying that he didn't think that Howe would take this game as seriously because he's got the Champions League against Barcelona coming up. And I was saying to him that I really felt that Howe would use this game to make sure that players kept in rhythm, kept in form. So I really expected Eddie Howe to play his strongest lineup, which he did. Some might say he rested his strongest lineup because maybe Trippier and Burn and the likes return, and Tonali as well. But I think the team that we saw play against Chelsea are the more likely team to play against Barcelona. But let's just do a quick roundup. It was a real kind of typical, let me make sure you guys can see this, away performance in the sense of we being the away team had, you know, least possessions. Chelsea had 22 shots, we had 7, although we had 5 shots on target and they had 3. I'm going to be interested to see if we can find blocks, because I've been interested to see how many shots we blocked. Because what I was really impressed with is I thought that we were very aggressive in our own box in terms of defending, which helps with Botman. But I also think that Voltemada had a decent game. He had a block in that game as well, which I was quite pleasant to see in terms of I feel that he understood a little bit more about the position that he was playing in. Maybe something about the way we were playing really helped as well. We both competed really well. Both teams competed for duels. They competed for 91, we competed for 90, so it's very close. Although the dual success rate was 52% to us and 45% to theirs. So it's a really good physical performance considering that we've just played. Obviously, Chelsea played as well against PSG. But I think it shows the attitude and what we were doing. Both teams competed the same for aerial duels, and both teams got the same aerial duels 50-50. I love the fact that successful dribbles, we had 6, they had 5. You know I like to keep a watch of our dribbles. They're not always the highest sometimes, but it's good to see. And it's not surprising with the likes of Willock, with the likes of Jacob Ramsey, Gordon, those are really high. That was fairly impressive. But now our XG, and this is where I would say we don't want to be, the only time people say XG can be misleading is if you're not reading the XG properly, right? So let's read the XG properly. Now, the XG for both teams seems very, on the surface of it, very close, because we've got 1.38 and they got 1.39. But the reason why we've got 1.38, we've got, obviously they've had 22 shots, by the way. By the way, did I find how many block shots they had? That was the one thing I wanted to see. I bet, actually, let me see. Sorry, guys. I did want to see how many shots we managed to block. If you look at our recoveries, attacking third, midfield, recoveries, attacking third. Oh, it doesn't have the block shots. I wanted to see the block shots because I wanted to see just how aggressive we were in and around the box. Okay, yeah, block shots. So Chelsea had 9 block shots. Chelsea had 9 block shots while we had 1. And we had 5 shots on target. They had 3, even though they had 20 plus shots on target, which shows you just how aggressive we were out in our penalty box defending. So I was very pleased about that. Before I go to the chat, I wanted to Yeah, so XG. So yeah, we've got 1.38, they got 1.39, even though they had 20 plus shots. How many shots did they have? They had 12 shots inside of our box as well, 9 block shots, 3 shots on target. They had 22 shots. They had 22 shots and only 3 on target, which is crazy. Which shows you just how aggressive they were. So really, if you look at Chelsea, which is on the left here, they're in the purple. They've got a higher volume of shots, 22, but very low XG shots. So quite a bit of them were outside the box. I think most of them, 12 of them were outside the box. They had 12 shots outside the box and must have been 10 shots inside the box, I'm assuming. And they had 10 shots inside the box, right? 9 shots that were blocked. And you can see from Chelsea's side, they were all very much low XG shots. So apart from the Chalobah one, which was the header, and Cole Palmer as well, but that was 0.10. Like Chalobah was the highest XG that they had, I think, on 0.16. So yes, Chelsea had lots of shots, but no real clear above 0.16 XG shots essentially that they have. And I think that's down to the fact that we're super, super aggressive around their box. Now, this is what I mean about typical away performance. If you look at us, on the right here in the red, the main XG we got was from the goal itself, which was 0.93. Now, essentially it was 0.93. If you guys remember the goal, Gordon had nobody there. In fact, I don't know about you guys, but I was almost half worried that he didn't look. When you look at it, he doesn't look like he's going to stumble, but maybe because I was just nervous about it. It's the way he took it, and then with his like stopped the ball with his foot, and then with the same foot shot. It kind of made me. When you look at it, it doesn't look awkward or anything like that. But maybe because I was nervous, I was like, "Goodness gracious me!" But it was a really, 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 really worked move. And if I had time, I would have liked to have played for it. But we've got a lot of things I want to discuss on the show today. But essentially, it was such a high XG shot because obviously it's not actually doesn't pay in mind how the shot was made. The fact that if you guys will remember, in fact, I want to look at the goal, guys, because it kind of leads me to it. So it's not paying in mind that we passed the ball around, we went from one end to the other. It was a cutting edge pass through the middle of the park. It's looking at who was where was the shot taken. Were there any players in front of you? Yeah, that kind of all bears in mind. And if you look at Gordon's chance, literally, if you look at it, understand what XG is. And you can see where Gordon is. He's right in front of the goal. There's no goalkeeper. There's no player. So that's why it's almost impossible to miss that shot. Hence why it's 0.93. So that was the highest XG shot we had. The second highest XG shot was the header from Malik Chow. I can't remember it for some reason. In the 22nd minute. And there was a smaller one much lower from Willock. Otherwise, most of them were outside the goal with Gordon and with Ramsey. But that was the main one there. So you can kind of see why it's such a typical away performance. Now, before I get to the chats, let me just try and find, because I want to see the goal. Because I really liked how well the goal was worked. I thought it was a really, really well worked goal. Let me see if I can find it before we get onto it. Yeah, here we go. So, just Simon in there. Make sure I set it right. So let me see. It's just setting it up. Now, okay, so let me get onto here. But before I start, let me see what the chat is saying. James talked about it's 8-2 to PSG. They're finished. Chelsea are finished. Man. It's that time of the season where I don't want to say it because before we start our game, But objectively, this isn't because it's Chelsea or anybody else. And we're going to find out about ourselves. We're going to find out about ourselves real soon. The wheat gets separated from the chaff. The men get separated from the boys. It's getting to that crunch time of the season. And we're going to find out where we stand tomorrow. James says Brentford hasn't got an easy match. They put Leeds United that are still pretty solid. They do, and I saw their game against Wolves. They were 2-0 up, and they let the 2-0 lead slide. I'm telling you, this is where you can find out who you are. They drew last time, exactly. James says, luckily, I wouldn't be missing that much on holiday on Friday until the 5th of April. Go and ski for 2 weeks in the front. Well done. Big up to you, James. Make sure you have a great, great time. Make sure you have a fantastic time. Well done. Well done for that. H says, Willick displayed his hashtag 10 shops. He did. He really, really enjoyed this. Now, that's a really nice segue, Adrian. Now, because of the highlights, and I wish I kind of now went to the full match because we would have seen it. We've missed the part. We're about to get onto it, but we've missed the part where I can't remember how many passes we had before this, but we actually came from the left side of the pitch. We still kept the ball from the left side of the pitch before it got back to Ramsey here at this point. So we worked the left side of the pitch. So now, okay, we can't get back here. We'll work it back here. And this is the part I just want to start from the beginning, is to say why it's such an advantage to have. Let me slow this part down so I don't get in trouble with YouTube. Here we go. Why it's so good to have Ramsey? Because of in terms of his ability on the ball. It's very hard to see, and you guys know this. Nick Pope in this position, this far out of his box with the ball. The centre back so confident in Ramsey's ability that they've separated that far out. I'm not saying there's to this point is what I'm saying. And even the Chelsea players don't really want to press Ramsey because they know they can play right through them. The other thing you're going to see is Tino Livramento come to the centre here. He's the one that's inverted. He's a fullback that's inverted, which allows the midfielders. It's why we're talking about Willock playing that 10 role. He's able to push up, right? And the other midfielders are able to push up because Livramento is allowed to puts himself in the position between the two pressing Chelsea strikers. Now, instead of passing to Livramento straight away, he puts it over to Chow. And Chelsea, there's kind of been well documented about how wrong Chelsea got their press wrong. But I want to see why they got their press wrong. And a big part of this is because Livramento knocked their bearings, because it was Livramento instead of your Jacob Ramseys or anyone from the midfielders who inverted. It was Livramento who inverted. And they said you've got Jacob Murphy here coming in and Cucurella chasing him. But Cucurella is expecting Jacob Murphy to be on the other side of the pitch. So now, because Cucurella has been drawn away, you can see in the right-hand screen picture here, a gap is now forming on the other side of the pitch. And Livramento, before he receives the ball here from Chow, looks up. He's already looking up the pitch. And this is what separates a really good midfielder. And he knows what's going on. He goes, go, give me the ball. And this is the key part about the slight difference between Livramento and Kieran Trippier. You're going to see Livramento's ability to be able to carry the ball the way he does, and his powerful running. It's not to say that Kieran Trippier can't go with the ball, but Livramento's, you can see how quickly he moved. Livramento started here. Look where he started. And you're going to see him within 2 seconds literally move, 5-10 yards? So quickly, so powerfully with the ball that João Pedro and Cole Palmer cannot keep up with it. And this is the momentum of the ball. This is the difference. 1, 2, and he's already gone. He's already into Chelsea's half, and he's forced the Chelsea centre-backs to run behind him, but also was forcing them to run behind is the run of Willock and Gordon, and it's so scary right now. Now, because Livramento's inverted, Cucurella's gone up, now you've got 3 versus 5 here, but the thing is they're not watching the runs here. Look at the huge gap between I think it's Chalobah and Reese. And a lovely, well, it wasn't that hard because it was right in front of him, but literally split Chelsea's midfield open, and hence why, obviously, XG misses all of that part, but what XG captures is this part. That's a 0.9 conversion. That's what 0.93 conversion looks like, literally. And it was a lovely, lovely goal. And Newcastle did two things after this. I can't remember when we scored this goal. It's definitely within the first 20 minutes. We kept the lead. We won away. And we kept a clean sheet. Phenomenal. I was super, super happy about that performance. And it took us... And we've now had 2 wins in a row versus Man United and versus Chelsea in the Premier League. And we're so unlucky not to have 3 wins in a row with Barcelona at St. James's Park. We go to Barcelona, we go to the new camp in really, really good form, in my opinion. So it worked out. It worked out. And I didn't say this, before I go to the chat, I didn't say this, but in terms of our starting lineup, it goes to our starting lineup is where art thou? I think we're here. Let me just go on SofaScore. It's easy to see on SofaScore. Yeah, so if you guys remember, Bobby didn't think that would, we actually made 6-7 changes. We made about 7 changes from the Barcelona game. So Livramento came in for Trippier. Botman came in for Byrne. Ramsdale returned. Ramsey returned. Was it Ramsey? Who played against Barcelona? No, Ramsey did play against Barcelona. Someone had a break, but Willett came in for Tonali. Voltamada came in for Joe Linton. Murphy came in for Elanga. Gordon came in for Sola. Yeah, 6 changes. I think 6 changes. I'm sure there was a 7 change, but we made 6 changes, right? And so people were like, I can't believe they played the second string side. Not really. We didn't really play us. We did and we didn't. Oh gosh, why does it flip over like that? We did and we didn't. But we made 6 changes nonetheless. Because, and this is the first time really, I know there was a game against Bournemouth, but this is the first time we got to see what I would say is our the centre-back partnership that we wanted. The defensive partnership that we wanted for most of the season. That's Hall at left back, Livramento at right back, Chow and Botman in midfield. It's pretty much a toss-up between Pope and Ramsdale, but towards the end of this season, it's looking more and more like Ramsdale's the man. But so this is the defensive partnership. This is the defensive starting lineup that we've wanted, and we just been deprived of. Frequent injuries for Botman, Hall, especially not Botman. Botman, Livramento have been very frequent. Hall, especially at the start of the season, but has been very, very good recently. So we've been deprived of seeing this, right? But the midfield, when we saw the midfield, I know we were so worried. We're like, oh my word. Like, no Tonali, no Joe Linton. We kind of expected to have Joe Linton because he came on in the second half. I forgot when he came on. Who did he come on for? Joe Linton came on the 67th minute for Voltamada. And it's difficult to say. It's not our number one midfield, quite clearly, but I thought they did quite well. I thought Voltamada, let me just look at Voltamada's stats. It's a shame I can't see how many blocks he had, because he made 1 block in the game that I thought was really, really good. I thought that it showed that he's paying attention. I'm not gonna. He's played 67 minutes. He had, what's his overall stats? No crossing, no key passes, quite obviously, but accurate passes, generally 69%, plus passing opposition 50%, passing his own. It was a defensive performance, to be fair to him. He had 26 touches of the ball, 2 out of 4 dribbles. So he attempted 4 dribbles, which is good, which is why our dribbles were so high. And 2 of them were successful. He was fouled once, lost possession 7 times, total carrying distance 23 meters, 5 defensive contributions, which is good, which includes blocks, tackles 1 out of 3, interceptions, it says 0 block shots. I'm not true. That is not true because I remember he rocked a shot in the second half, and that's when I thought, okay, he understands what this position is beginning about. But this is a little bit better as well here. 6 out of 9 ground rules won. And if anybody's been following Baltimore, that's exceptional for Baltimore, right? And 2 out of 3 aerial duels won. Again, if anybody knows about Baltimore, that is very, very good for Baltimore. I know people are going to say that 6'7", 6'8". How can you be so happy that he won 2 out of 3 duels? That's because if anybody knows Baltimore, aerial duels are not his forte, but they work their socks off. But the man who has really, really impressed me, and I wish I had the stats of I think he's got like 26 GA against top 6 teams since he's been at Newcastle, which is absolutely phenomenal. But he absolutely worked his socks off for us. I know there was some stats as well that showed that he is like one of the best top 9, I think in terms of forwards. Here we go. I found it. Make sure you guys can see this before we get into it. I didn't think I was gonna, but I wanted to show this because I want to big up our players when I can. Yeah, you can see that. So this is from. Oh, I want to big up who did the stats, but I can't see it here. Made by Adnan. I want to say he used StatsBomb. He used StatsBomb to do this. So essentially, that Anthony Gordon is, I think, in the 91 percentile here. I think he's in the top 9. So he's percentile top 5 wingers with 1,000 minutes played. Off the ball work rate, he's in the top 9 out of the 5 top leagues. He's 95 percentile for defensive actions, 81 percentile for defensive actions, 97 percentile for pressures. Those pressures prevent so many attacks against our team. Come on, have I gone off it? That's annoying. Here we go. Defensive actions. Here we go. Right, so 97 percentile for pressures, 88 percentile for pressure regains, 88 percentile, 88% for counter pressures, 88 percentile again for counter pressure regains. So essentially, his off the ball work rate was phenomenal, and it was phenomenal also in this game against Chelsea. And it's going to be super, super important as well against Barcelona. It's going to be super important against Barcelona, but also his clinical edge, his movement and pace. Obviously, got the goal as well, which I thought was phenomenal. So he was my man of the match. Let me know who your man of the match is. So let's go into the Barcelona preview game. I'm going to read the chats in a moment, but I want to set this up in terms of Barcelona and ourselves. Where is it? Here we go. If anybody knows, I'm going to have to Google this while I'm with you guys. Who's fit for Barcelona? They were playing all sorts of games last time. Apparently, all these other players weren't supposed to be fit. Lamine Yamal wasn't supposed to be fit. Lewandowski wasn't supposed to be fit. They all played. So it's almost pointless even looking at it. But we'll ask anyway. And I think there's a number of players that are due to come back. Frankie de Jong being one of them. What are they saying? It is difficult to tell here. Who is fit for Barcelona? We know that Miley isn't coming back, even though we were promised that he would be. I can't see. I cannot see at this moment. Lamine Yamal's fit, so that should be something. And Eric Garcia is fit for Barcelona. They had a 5-2 victory over Sevilla on Sunday as well, so they had a good time. Who's fit? Who's fit? Who's fit for these guys? They was able to rotate as well. So it says here against Sevilla, Ronald Cahoot. So these are the players that were rotated out: Arahu, Cortez, Furman, Lopez. I think it was Cheslea, Marcus Rashford, Ferran Torres. So they were able to rotate their players. The players that won't be fit was Andreas Christensen. However, Barcelona will be without several players, including Andreas Christensen, Frankie de Jong, Jules Koundé, and Alejandro Balde, who remain sidelined. We'll see about that, because that's a thing that changes every time. But I see a few folks in the chat, so let me just first share my screen, and then we'll see where we're at, and then we'll go to the tactical breakdown in a moment. And I might go to the previous game to see where we're at as well. All right, so here we go. Okie dokes. James says, with the Chelsea match, if not expect us to win most, I was expecting was a draw. Yeah, I think I predicted 2-1 victory. And that was more my heart than my head saying that. But I see what you mean. I thought it'd be a really difficult game. It was a really difficult game, but we rode our luck a little bit, but we managed to get through. James says, part of the reason why I didn't listen to the match. Oh, I missed that part. Sorry. James is missing Tino, though. We make it 7. Oh, I counted Tino. I got 6. Who's the 7th player? I counted Tino. Adrian says, did we actually play 4-2-3-1 though? That's a good question. I don't think we played 4-2. So for me, Voldemar played as a left 8. He played as a left 8. And in fact, why do I think this? Let me look at the heat map real quick. I do think it's important because it's gonna where is it? So I thought we played where is it? Where's the arrows? Here we go. There's the arrows. There's Newcastle. Where is the Chelsea game? Here we go. There's the Chelsea game. Ramsey, Voltemada. So if we look at Voltemada, his key points were, and if you can see it here, can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see that. two like main heat points there. One is in our half, the kind of half space between the goal and us, where you typically see at 8 position, and the other one in the half space for the Chelsea in the opposition plays, which is the Chelsea half, and that's not unusual, right? For a box to box left eight, but mainly very central. A little bit here on the left eight here position, where he would have been supporting Barnes and the like. So for me, we still kept the nature of our 4-3-3 position. Votamana wasn't allowed to roam as much as he would typically like, and he stayed very disciplined. So we kind of, for me, you would get the typical 4-3-3 position with a 4-5-1 or 5-4-1 towards the end of the game, and how we played. That's what it was for me, Adrian. James says, "Well, Eddie saying no, but yes." Adrian says Ramsey was my man. He was superb. Ramsey was superb. Yeah, don't blame me for that. Ramsey was superb. James says, "Well, Ramsey man of the match. Close second for me is Gordon. Fair play, and it's good to have more than one. He's out, the young. I hope. Hope he gets speedy recovery, but just not in time for the Newcastle game, because I do think he's very good. So speaking of De Jong, speaking of Barcelona, let's look. This is the Sofa Scores predicted lineup, and we'll talk about what I think my lineup is. So that's Chelsea. It's the Chelsea game. That's annoying. Newcastle again. Barcelona versus Newcastle. Right, so this is their predicted lineup. I want to hear what you guys' predicted lineup is going to be. I disagree with SofaScore, and you're going to see it in my tactical, when we do the tactical review. I do think that Burn and Tino keep their place. And the fact that we kept a clean sheet against Chelsea probably cements that. And so long as they're fit, so long as Eddie Howe confident they're fit and their readiness in Botman and Livramento, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't start. They are better individual players to Burn and to Trippier, who've been phenomenal for us, who actually got us the victory over Man United, got us the draw against Barcelona. But I think if we're going to go for it, Livramento and Hall been able to go up the flanks, allowing Elanga, who I think will play, and who is it? Barnes to invert is going to be really important. I do think this will be our midfield: Ramsey, Tonali, and Joe Linton, who were really good against Barcelona. And this will be our front three as well. Now for Barcelona, they got Lewandowski back, Yamal, Lopez, which makes sense. Rafinha, Pedri, Bernal. Bernal came off early against us. I'll be interested to see if he plays or not. He's a young boy. How old is he? How old is Bernal? It doesn't say here. It doesn't say here, but I know that he's young, man. Cancelo. Now, Cancelo I was worried about for his dribbling, but he struggled against Elanga. When you watch that game back, he struggled against Elanga. It's only because Elanga didn't really have the output, i.e., goals and assists. But there was at least 2, 3, 4 occasions that Elanga burst past him. Like, Elanga's not afraid of Cancelo at all. So I think that might be something to look out for. And I think Gordon will be hunting him down as well. Garcia Martin in the midfield with Garcia on the right. Again, Barnes shouldn't be worried about Garcia in terms of pace for pace. It's going to be really interesting. I'm saying Joan Garcia, who I think is a decent keeper from what I've seen as well. If you look at Barcelona's form, if we just look at Barcelona before we get into the tactical review and stuff, Barcelona give an 81% chance to win this game as well at the new camp, and I'm going to talk about all of that in a moment. But let me just. I'm going to look at our form. We're going to look at Barcelona's form where is it? Here we go. Last 10 games or so, they've won 7 of those games, lost 2, one to Girona Atletico, and drew 1 to us. That should have been a third one, to be honest, in my view. So they're in good nick, and obviously they beat Sevilla 5-2. Which is, so that which has kept their run going in the La Liga. But if we look at us, if we look at Newcastle, I don't think our run has been too bad either. What is this? What's SofaScore doing? So here we are. No, here we go. Where are we? Here we go. So for our last 10 games, we have won 6. We lost 3, 2 to Man City, and 1 to Everton. Annoyingly, that was an annoying game to lose. But we did beat Spurs away. We beat Villa away. We beat Man United with 10 men. We drew with Barcelona. They got away with their lives in that game, in my opinion. And we beat Chelsea away. So some really big away victories in that period of time. So another away game that we're headed into, obviously, is Barcelona themselves. So before I get to the chat, let me set up the tactical board. But one thing I wanted to ask you guys, because this is my thought. What was your guys' thoughts after we kind of spoke about it, but on reflection, and I might have mentioned it in the reaction to the Barcelona game. Make sure you guys can see that you can. So this is the Chelsea game. One of the what's the word? Feelings, thoughts, senses I have going into the Barcelona game is, and thinking about the players, thinking about Eddie Howe. I'm gonna first say I'm hoping to see it as a fan and what I kind of noticed. My not overwhelming. What's the better thought feeling I'm trying to explain is I think we can beat Barcelona. And I think, and this might be just me as a fan projecting, but I'm listening to what Eddie Howe's saying, and I'm listening to what the players are saying. But my overall feeling from watching the game as well, my sinuses are going. I think we could. I think we can beat Barcelona, and I think the players believe they can beat Barcelona. And there's a number of and there's a couple of reasons why I think this. Oh gosh. So guys, let me get my tissue because I'm all messed up over here. Just give me 1 minute. Let me get my tissue. Oh. Oh. Sinus is all going off. But sniff some Albas. Yeah, I need some allergy tablets, I think. But I think we can beat Barcelona, and it's not a sense of like I hope we can beat Barcelona. This is I see it with my heart. I believe I'm thinking with my heart we can beat Barcelona. neither is it a kind of being overconfident and not respecting the opponent. It's none of those things. But we've played Barcelona twice. Obviously, the really recent game where we'll take it back to the first game we lost 2-1. It took a wonder strike from Rashford, and it was a game where we had a lot of chances. We didn't put them away. Credit to Barcelona for obviously coming away to St. James Park in the victory, but it wasn't a performance from Barcelona. It wasn't a victory from Barcelona where you're thinking, man, I hope we don't play them again, type of thing, or kind of like how we feel about Man City, right? And then the second time we played them, obviously at St. James Park again, we played them how we wanted to play them the first time around, I think, if that makes sense. We went man for them, as we did in the first one. This time with more confidence, I felt. Now, they all argue obviously they didn't have certain players and everything else, and that's fine, but we were one kick away, or two kicks if you include the penalty, actual penalty take, away from winning that game 1-0. And it would have been the deserved 1-0. And in neither of those ties that I feel like, obviously when I'm watching the game, I'm nervous as heck. I'm like, oh, what's this, what are we doing? This is nerve-wracking. But then also when you reflect on it, you're watching it, you're like, we gave them a good game, man. We gave them a good game. And so I've just got this I'm gonna say I've got this feeling. It's not like, oh, I've got this feeling we're gonna do it. It's more of a feeling of like, I think we can beat them. I do think we can beat them. When we play Man City, I'm like, oh, you've proven enough this year. You're too much for us, right? I think we can beat them. I think we can beat Barcelona. But but, it's not a but. It's sort of a, I'm gonna go to the chats in a minute, but it's an unknown, which is this time we're playing them at the new camp. We've played them twice, and it's been at St. James's Park. Now we're playing them at their home ground, in their place of business, right? Against them and against their fans, right? So how is that going to turn out to be? And there's two things I'm thinking about going into that, maybe three. The first is, when the Barcelona players, and apart from Pedri really, but when the Barcelona's players and manager and others talked about it, was when they drew with us, was we weren't really, they kept on saying, talking about themselves, which is we weren't really ourselves. We get back to the new camp, we're going to be more of ourselves. And they didn't give us much about what we did. Now, some of that might be craftiness, strategy, not to give the game away too much. Fair enough. I can only judge it from what I see on the outside. My overall feeling was, I don't think they've accepted that we're a good team. And part of that might be because of pride, because of who they are, and who we are maybe compared to them in terms of trophies and everything else in history. Which is fair enough. And what I'm hoping is that if I'm right, that they will continue to underestimate us, which will work in our favour. The second thing is, going into the new camp is, and I heard who mentioned it? somebody, I don't know if it was Hansi Flick or one of the players, were talking about the new camp, and they were saying how uh, they'll be playing in front of their fans now, and essentially it'll be different because they're at the new camp. And what I thought was, it's not unreasonable to think that playing at home, obviously, as a player, as a manager, that you'll be lifted by your fans, you'll be encouraged by your fans, and obviously they'll also intimidate the opposition team, and that's what would help you carry over to victory. It's not unreasonable to think that, and they should think that. We think that about St James's Park. But the other thing I thought was, I think the fans will give them a lift, right? I think they will probably pass the ball a little bit quicker and be more attacking. And I'm gonna talk about that in a moment as well. But I think they're still going to play the same. They don't have an answer for necessarily for what we give, which is our man-to-man, our pressing. When we get that right, our physicality and our pace. They've talked about it and they've got to be cautious around it, but they don't have an answer for it, right? So they rid the wave when it came to St. James's Park, right? Do they have an answer of what if Newcastle ride the wave at the new camp? And then we start to play our game. And the pattern starts to evolve how it did at St. James's Park. So I wonder about that. And the third thing is, and we're going to go to the tactics board in a moment before I read it, is the fans being there for them can play. We spoke about how it can work for them, but there's also ways at how it can work against them. Because at St. James's Park, they were allowed to be fairly, not I won't call it reserved, but that high line maybe wasn't as high as it typically would be. I bet it wasn't as high against us as it was against Sevilla, who they beat 5-2. But when at the new camp, right? When they're at the new camp, their fans will demand that they attack. Their fans will demand to see them on top and front-footed, which there will be parts, not maybe big parts of the game where they will be. But that opens up the opportunities that they know could happen against us, against our players. And Gordon didn't play in that game. Livramento didn't play in that game. So there's still a lot of Botman didn't play in that game. So there's still avenues now where we've got players who are good on the ball, technicians, who have pace and power, like Livramento and Gordon, and players with a big game like your Gordons. They haven't faced that yet. So they haven't. So they have to be on the front foot. They have to press forward. Is that the best thing for them, though? And they're going to take risks. And fair play to them. They know how to obviously win this tournament many times and everything else. I'm just wondering, and I'll summarize this as that, I wonder if that will play into our hands. And for us, I don't think there's any reason for us to be, I don't think it's going to be like, for us to be like, wow, we're at the new camp. We've played at PSG and twice now and got results. We played away from home, unlucky against Marseille, Leverkusen. Plus the Premier League, we've seen us away to Chelsea, away to Villa. I don't think mentally, I think we're going to be overawed. I think we're in a good space mentally. Howe talked about how the team are probably heading into their peak at the right time of the season. I just think Like I said, I'm not saying this out of arrogance. I'm not saying this out of hope. I'm not saying that this necessarily will happen. I'm saying what I've observed in our games against Barcelona and the other reasons I outlined to you guys. I do think we can beat them. I just think maybe stylistically, there's something about our style that doesn't quite compute with their style, right? So that's my overall feeling. But let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. James says it's confirmed now Chelsea and City are now out of the Champions League, probably also soon to be included Spurs. Or yeah, Spurs are out. Even Spurs will tell you they're out. Absolutely. That's big. Big news. Arsenal are through though. Adrian says we'll be very glad if the young is out. Yeah, so would I. So would I. No trips. For me, I think Livramento should start. Adrian says Barca will have to be at their best to beat us. Our height and pace will have them worried. And I think it does. I think when they're in their group, when they're managers, I think they'll talk about that a lot. I think they'll, I think they'll talk about that a lot. But what they can't control is what the fans will be demanding from them, which is for them to be front-footed, highline, dominate, go and destroy these, nobody's teams. Like who is Newcastle United, and that would play into our hands if they fell into that trap. Adrian says, I agree, Philip. There's no great fear factor going into this game. Sure, they might click and play us off the park, but we've got enough tools to cause them trouble. Do you know what? You summarized what took me 10 minutes to say in a sentence, really. There isn't the same fear factor, and it's not a disrespect. It's not like whatever. It's like you said, they could play us off the park. I'm not ashamed to say that. We're not ashamed to say that. It could happen. It could happen. Like, they are, it's Barcelona. But we do have enough tools to cause them trouble. That is without a shadow of doubt the truth. And they know it. They know it. They know it. The main variable now is the new camp. It's the variable, it's an unknown variable. Like I just don't know how fully it would fall. But if we're tracking our history in playing in away games in the Champions League, we don't do too badly. And the only game I can think of that we've lost so far is in Marseille, and that was God bless him, that was a Nick Pope. It was on Nick Pope, basically. It was a Nick Pope, right? So we've been fine. And it's not like when we first went to the Champions League, when we played our first game in the San Siro, and we're like wandering around and saying, wow, it's a San Siro. And Trippier won't care. Trippier will be there telling them, forget these man. I've played them before. And says we can beat them. They can beat us. It's all to play for. I fully agree. James says Eddie's lineup is likely to be Ramsdale, Trips, Chow, Burn. I wouldn't. Yeah, it could be. I'll be. If Livramento and Botman are fit, what Botman gives, I just don't think Lewandowski has anything for Burn or for Botman. Right? So it's not Lewandowski, and it's no disrespect to Lewandowski. Like, incredible, right? But we've handled him in the last two games, whether it's Botman or it's Burn. The main thing is obviously Lamine, Rafinha, their midfield and everything else around that. That's what we're looking at, right? So from a physical point of view, it's Botman and Burn, it doesn't matter. But what Botman adds is his ability on the ball, his ability to break lines. And in a game where we're going to be relying on those transitions, You saw what Livramento did just by inverting the midfield. The ball, Ramsdale was able to play the ball through the middle because he's that good with his ball at his feet. Livramento changes, and within 2 seconds, 3 seconds, he's already within 3 or 4 strides, he's already pushing into the opponents, right? I'll be surprised that Howe would give that up. Like that he would give that up. If Livamento's fit and ready to go, which I anticipate that he is, play the man. If Botman is fit and ready to go, play the man. And I think Eddie Howe will. And if it's a personal thing in terms of players want to play, Dan Burn and Trippier have both played Barcelona. Botman and Livramento haven't. And Botman and Livramento are fit. And the reason why we've been working and rotating to get them back to fitness is for games like this. It is for games like this. Right? Now that they're here, now that they're fit, and we have this Arsenal in our team with them both. Remember, Barcelona haven't experienced Botman to that degree. They haven't experienced Livramento to that degree. And they've obviously experienced Gordon a little bit more, but they haven't seen him for now 6 months, right? Obviously Gordon's going to play, but in terms of Livramento and Botman, use them. I think he uses them. James says, Eddie's lineup. Have I read this one? Eddie's lineup is likely to be Ramsdale, Trips, Chow, Burn, Hall, Ramsdale, Sandros, Ilanga, Gordon, and Barnes. I think he plays Livramento. I hope he does anyway. And Botman. Adrian says, thanks for sending your lineup. And guys, please do send in your lineups as well. James has sent his. Adrian said, any chance Eddie was resting or solo for this game? That could be another. Where would he play him? Where would he play Usola? Where would he play Usola? Would he play him on the left, possibly? That could be a little bit of something instead of Barnes. Barnes would be seething. He'll be interested. James says, but you could be right, Adrian. Where would you play if Usola is going to play for us? Where would you play him? Instead of Elanga? I don't think he plays him again instead of Elanga, in my opinion. James says, my version would be Ramsdale, Tino, but unlikely. So Trips, Chow, Botman, Hall, Ramsey, Sandro, Elanga, Gordon, Barnes, the 2 main choices for the leg in the setup. Okay. Why do you think he won't play Livramento and Botman, James? Let me know. James said there's only 60% of its full size, so 60,000 seats. It's only 60% of its full size, 60,000 seats at the moment, a long way after the 100. Well, are they not filling to capacity? That'd be interesting. I didn't know that. I had no idea about that. All right, so let's look at and you guys send in your continue sending your predictions and your lineups. All right, so got Trippier, Joe Linton, Tonali, Sean Neve, Wissa, who we know is unlikely to be playing. It was a good interview from Park Ji-sung. I don't know if you guys saw, but he talks about Gordon. Really, really positive about how he's talking about his own development and how he's kind of following in the footsteps of Gordon. It was really, really good. Really, really good. I'm not surprised he said about that Gordon, because I've heard it elsewhere. Youngsters talking about how Gordon always talks to the youngsters and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised to hear that about Gordon. Bruno will be joining, but unfortunately he won't be playing. Miley won't be playing either. Mr. Murphy, not Jacob Murphy, the other Murphy, forgot his name. Now Barcelona, Ferran Torres, Rashford, Firmin, De Jong, Garcia is fit, we know now, Cheslea, Let me do Barcelona's real quick because while it's in my mind, Rafinha will probably go to the right with Yamal on the left. Why have I got Lewandowski here? Is it? No, Yamal's on the right, right? He's on the right. He's on the right, I think. With Rafinha on the left. Almo came. I don't know why Almo doesn't start for them. He's so dangerous. With Fermin Torres instead of Almo. He's so useful for them, though. Pedri. They talked about Garcia. I'll be surprised if maybe Garcia's fit. Where is he? Here we go. All right. So for us, I do think Livramento plays, Char plays, Botman plays, Hall plays, Ramsdale plays. I will take off. Whoa, not the whole team. That's crazy. We'll look. Voldemort, Murphy. I think Lega starts. Where is he? Where is Elanga here? Here we go. So Elanga starts with Barnes here. Tonali is back with who's on the right? Who was I thinking of? Ramsey, Tonali. Oh, sorry. Big Joe. Big Joe Linton. Big Joe Linton. So I think that's our best team that we can put forward. And if the game goes into extra time or we need to make changes and it's tight, we've got Willock or Sola off the bench. Okay, so one thing I'm anticipating is oh, the Camp Nou isn't finished yet. Okay. 5-3-2. 5-3-2 with a front of Wood and Sola. That's interesting. I wonder if he does do that. That is interesting. We'll play it out. So Barcelona, I'm gonna guess will be it's difficult for them because I know what they're thinking. We can't be too gun ho, but there will be an expectancy for them to be as front footed as possible from their fans. Lewandowski is going to be key for them in terms of trying to pin our defenders back. Now, Rafinha does a really good job in terms of either dropping in like this and being hazardous or going on the outside. Sometimes Cancelo goes on the inside here instead and trying to work that space, trying to find a way to work that space so that the likes of Lewandowski can glide in and get in behind our midfield. What's also important for them, obviously, Lamine Yamal. Now, Lamine Yamal, a lot has been made of the social media hype around, Hall pocketing Lamine Yamal. And I think Lamine Yamal is going to want to make an example out of Hall. I think Lamine Yamal, and the fans would have heard what happened to him at St. James's Park. I think Lamine Yamal is going to want to make an example out of Hall if he can. This could play into Hall's hands because if he has the similar type of game against him, where he knows how to defend against him, this leads us to him hopefully losing the ball a little bit more often and allows us to go on the break where we can as soon as possible and to release the likes of Barnes, Gordon, Joe Linton and others. Elanga will be bursting down the line here as well. That will be key for us. But this will be, you have to watch out for this one. Yamal would have been watching social media and everybody else talking about how Hull pocketed him and what a great performance it is and how Barcelona are even scouting Hull. Lamine Yamal is going to want to make an example out of Hull if he can. And that's where Joe Linton is going to be very, very key in also providing that extra cover for Hull to ensure either Hull helps push Lamar out to keep him here, and whilst Joe Linton keeps this part secure, or if Lamar does invert, as he had to, and add an extra man here, was a little bit more probing, which allowed Lewandowski, Rafinha, and all those guys to get in behind, is to also be hit to kind of follow Yamal and make sure he doesn't get round on the outside. Botman having to be very careful with Lewandowski, Ramsey and Chow follow the likes of Rafinha, making sure that these guys don't get in behind, right? So that's going to be super, super, super important for us. What's been good and what's been interesting and what's been what I'm wondering also is how we. So let me actually, while we're there, I'm going to get to that point in a moment. Actually, sorry, but whilst we're here, actually, because it's allowed to talk about our ability and our transition play, right? Now, like I said, they're playing in the new camp. There is a good and a bad to that. They will have to be front-footed, and there were opportunities where they were able to get into the back as rare as they came. But this is going to be really important for them, for us in terms of our defending to prevent them from getting in behind us. And this is where Tonali is going to be very, very important, because if Tonali slots into that midfield here, it allows Chow to focus on the runs from Rafinha, and allows Botman to watch for the runs of Lewandowski, as well as Joe Linton to follow the runs of Yamal. Pedro be trying to get around the back here. Hall tucking in would be important for Botman to make sure Botman was like a free man here, to make sure that there is no more passing lanes from going in behind. In these situations, though, they open up opportunities for Newcastle, right? Because if Yamal is busy trying to make an example out of Hall, for instance, and trying to show that, not just Hall, but, doing his thing, just doing his natural thing. He might not even necessarily care about Hall, but just trying to win the game for his team, right? If we can win the ball with him in these type of situations, is the likes of Gordon, either, where he does this thing where he will drop in and he will do this spin and run to get in behind. That's going to be key for him. And Kabasi is a little bit more quicker than I thought he was. But he's not going to have this one-on-one race with Gordon continuously. And the Langer stretch on the other side of the pitch. Cancelo hasn't got the same legs either as he had before. And if anything, what's going to be important is whilst Barcelona shift a lot of their players here in order to try and get behind, it opens up the space here at the back for Langer. There'll be lots of focus on Gordon and on Barnes, and rightly so, because of the pace that they have. And there will be a lot of balls coming in from that side as well as Joe Linton, actually, and even Hall, actually, either Hall or Joe Linton. And Hall was really good at this, taking the ball and not just hitting it, but also sometimes just taking it off his man and running with it. And that's what caused a lot of problems, because if Hall is running with it, if Pedro doesn't get to him in time, or Bernal doesn't get to him in time, but then they're here, it leaves Garcia the choice. Do I stick with Barnes and keep running back with Kabasi, Barnes and Gordon, which is not nice, right? Or do I go out and meet Hall? And the moment he meets Hall, it then leaves this type of open space in behind. Regardless, Hall still has a choice. And he'll have a choice of either still hitting it over the top for the likes of Barnes and Gordon and Elanga to get in the back of Barcelona, hurting them like that. That's the ideal scenario we like. Or even, as we know, Hall has the ability to, and Botman have the ability to, is switch to play. Now, this could be interesting because if Cancelo is afraid to go forward or is worried about going forward, Rafinha kind of loses his ability to be able to run and join the party inside. So Cancelo has to run forward and to kind of take up this space for Livramento, right? Now, the problem though for Cancelo is when he does that, and if it doesn't work out for them, i.e. no goal or anything like that, Livramento and Elanga are going to be off. Livramento by himself, or speaking about ball carriers, and this is why I think this is why I do think Livramento plays, right? Livramento's ball carrying ability is going to be so key in these type of situations, because with Trippier, because he can't carry the ball as powerfully and as far, Trippier kind of has to release the ball a lot sooner, which sometimes works, but it can't work all the time, right? It's going to be a bit more difficult. But with Livramento's ball carrying ability, what that does is that puts Barcelona in a situation where this whole line has to be forced back with the likes of Cancelo and others chasing back. And it actually opens up more doors and more uncertainty if we're going to this position where Livramento fits in your running, maybe still make a simpler pass to Elanga, more closer to the penalty box, where he can either shoot or cut it across to the likes of Gordon, almost like a similar goal that we saw against Chelsea, or sliding Gordon and the likes. It all works and supports the team in that way, right? So that's why I think Livramento still plays. So there's going to be some key matchups where Cancelo in the last game was getting burnt by Elanga, but he can also get burnt by Livramento. And that's what balances things out. That kind of, and it maybe unbalances Barcelona a little bit more with Lamento being on the other side. The other thing that was really good, and we saw against Chelsea, was let me take this off. There's two things we saw, which was us playing from out the back. We're not gonna say we're good. We're not bad. We're pretty good from playing out the back, honestly. Like, we don't get enough kind of conversations about this, even in our own fan base. But we're not bad at playing out from the back. And what that helps us do is, especially with Ramsdale in goal, is it allows, if we're just playing it here, like we saw against Chelsea, we saw that advantage against Chelsea, it allows the likes of Chow and Botman to do this, and to split like this. Ramsdale with the ball like that, literally on the edge of his goal, with our forwards pushing up, Livramento pushing up, Elanga pushing in here, Paul pushing up, and Barnes pushing in here, Gordon through the middle, Joe Linton, who's able to, so he can, he's got either can hit it aerially. Joe Linton's always going to win it aerially against Pedri and Joe Linton, against Pedri and Barnal, hitting it onto Barnes and the likes. That could be a problem as well. And in terms of how they're going to press Barcelona, right? Because if they just allow us to play out, it's going to be difficult for them. So it's going to be. And then the other thing that's really good as well is we saw Livramento sometimes coming in like this with the likes of, which then allows the opportunity for the likes of Ramsey to push up, for instance, through the middle here, Elanga occupying Cancelo, who's not going to want that, and kind of get into these type of situations where you can have like a 4-on-4 or 3-on-4, which again is troublesome within itself, but having Ramsey to be able to push up like that, the likes of Livramento being able to drop in. You saw what he done. You saw what he done against the two Chelsea centre forwards, where he's able to take the ball on like this and drive with it, right? Lewandowski's no slouch. Either is Rafinha, but if Rafinha leaves his man here in Chow, the fact the ball was played off Chow against Chelsea, the ball is played off Chow before he played it off to Livramento. And what you can get then is these type of situations where he's driving again, spaces are being opened up here, maybe gaps are being opened up here. with the whole aim of trying to get into the back here, and that could be troublesome for them as well. So I think we've got options in terms of how we play out as well, and that could be problematic for Barcelona. The last thing I want to show before I go to the chat, and then we'll talk about transfers, is our press. It's going to be very, very key as well. I wonder what position we take. I think we will be front-footed as much as we can. It is Barcelona. You have to be respectful, but not respectful to the point where you end up losing the tie because you're too respectful, right? We don't want that. Delete that, put that on. Again, I wonder how, because Barcelona are going to be loathed to do long balls, right? They can do them. In fact, it might work for them if they do, but it's not their style. Barcelona are going to be loathed to kind of to play out from the back. But the way we press, and we just saw the Gordon stats, top 9 in amongst wingers in this top 5 leagues in terms of his press, his counter press, his counter regains, and everything else. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal in guarding and protecting this area and closing it down. And he'll be able to dictate when and where Barcelona when and where Barcelona are able to play the ball from out the back as well. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Yamal's a big factor here. But if we press Gordon, Barnes, Ilanga, Joe Linton being key here, supporting Hall and the likes, Botman and Chow, it's going to be interesting how they choose to press. Obviously, they're a phenomenal team. They can still play out from the back, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do it, right? Because I think Gordon will dictate the press. And they can go either way, left or right. It doesn't really matter for them. But if we get our press right, it's interesting to see how Barcelona choose to play out from the back. Do they go long to Lewandowski, which can still work? Charles going to have to be on his feet, on his toes. But it'd be very, very difficult if we're Botman, Lewandowski, earlier, I still fancy Botman. Chow, Rafinha, still fancy him. Joe Linton and Pedri, we know what's going to happen there. So it's going to be very, very interesting to have. So Bernal, Pedri obviously magical Pedri is going to be so important, but Joe Linton is going to be there. I don't like to talk about this. Last bit I want to talk about is referees. I don't really like to talk about it because leave the game to it. But if we get a decent referee who doesn't mind the physical aspects of the game, this will be problematic for Pedri, Joe Linton. And Pedri's talked about Joe Linton, and we've seen the memes of how it's like for Pedri playing in Spain, where they stand back and admire his skill, and then you see Joe Linton just running through people. That's going to be interesting. It's going to be also, and Joe Linton, and it can't always be Joe Linton and Pedri. I think Tonali and Pedri as well, to make sure that the referees don't think that Joe Linton needs to be like curbed or put on a leash or anything like that. Those personal dues are going to be important. Joe Linton, Pedri, Hall and Yamal, Chow and Rafinha, Livramento and Rafinha, for instance, as well, joining in there as well, are going to be absolutely key. Livramento on the other end, Livramento, Cancelo, Ilanga, Cancelo, and against Martin, Gordon against the whole Barcelona front line, and Barnes. And maybe this is where people maybe there is a case for a solo play in there, but Barnes has been superb and making something out of this. So there's so much to this game, and the unknown, obviously, it being at the new camp, what's going to happen is going to be so interesting. So send in your predictions, guys, and I'm going to give my prediction at the end as well. But we talked about it, set pieces as well, but I didn't even mention set pieces, corners. We need to score from a corner. There was an opportunity I even forgot about in the second game where I think the goalkeeper spilled it and they had someone to fly and clear it. This is going to be this first 20, 30 minutes of this game is going to be so intriguing. It's going to be so intriguing. And I know that Eddie Howe is going to be really keen that we impose our game on them. And for Barcelona, egged on by the fans and everybody else, can't allow that to happen. So the first 20, 30 minutes are going to be so important in this game. And if we've got our clinical boots on, it could be interesting. It could be very interesting. So send in your predictions. Let me know your thoughts. Adrian says 5-3. Oh, you thought for the 5-3-2 you did? Yeah. I think we'll go for it. I think we'll keep the four at the back. Though you could, if you mentioned if you could add Burn, who would you have to take off though? Would you have Barnes and Gordon, and you take off Elanga, and then you put on Burn? Where is Burn? Is he on my bench? He's not on my bench. Here we go. So if you put Burn there, you probably have a Botman, Yamal, Burn, Lewandowski, Chara, Rafinha lineup with Livramento and Hall hugging up the wings. Barnes and Gordon through the middle like this. Joe Linton, Tonali, and Ramsey through the middle. I see what you're saying. I see where you're heading with this. My only thing is Botman isn't a fan of being on the flank like this. If they get caught out, he's not a fan of being here. Charles comfortable in these situations. Botman not so much. I don't think Botman wants to be matched up too much in any areas of the pitch here with Yamal. So either Tonali or Joe Linton are going to have to be quite important and kind of setting in here as well. It's a possibility, actually. It's a possibility. I wouldn't write that off. And again, it's not something that Barcelona have seen. Adrian said the new camp isn't finished. Okay, you're right. Adrian says, Wissa's finished, I think. We should be seeing him moved on to the Turkish league team this summer. Is it because you know that, or are you just saying? I'd be interested to see. Big up my man Dave. God bless you, Dave. Dave says, "Hey Philip, can't wait for the game tomorrow. Higher prices over the top, and we can do the unthinkable." Yes, I love that. Send in your predictions, guys. Let me know. I haven't even made up my mind what it's going to be yet. Have I missed anybody? Dave says a Toon taking over Adam P. Got a good video of it. Good. Dave says, wish I was there. Me too. Honestly. Me too. Dave says, I think he went straight from Chelsea game. He's living the life. Adrian says, extra time, 3-3. Newcastle and penalties, right, Adrian? Dave says quite a few of the channels are there. TMC, Adam P. Oh, TMC and the Newcastle fans, TV, Keith, Downey. So it should be a lot of. And hopefully, by the grace of God, should this channel grow, you actually me there in the future. That'll be amazing, guys. Let me know if you guys want to see me be abroad in the Champions League, talking all things Newcastle. Dave says 1-1 Newcastle to win on penalties. James says, I personally would prefer that we sell Wissa over Voltemada. Is the less than two evils. Interesting. We'll talk about it in a moment, but all right. So predictions. And guys, thanks for the guys that have sent their predictions already. If you haven't sent in your predictions, let me know your thoughts. Right. So, guys, I think we can do it. I believe that we can do it. I believe we can do it. So I had to pause there because I was thinking, and I think what's good is what I'm sensing from the team is that I think they believe they can do it, and I believe they can. They believe, you know, we can beat this team. We can beat this team. I think we win this game in normal time. I think we beat them 3-2. I wanted to say 3-1, but something told me that the new camp won't allow it. It doesn't mean that I think, like I was explaining, you guys know, I explained it many times, we're going over there, we're going to crush them, anything like that. I think we can beat them, is what I think. I think we can beat them. And I think we've got enough change in the personnel from the game at St James's Park with Livramento joining in, Botman joining in, and Gordon to still offset the balance. I don't think, but I know Barcelona are saying they haven't seen the best of us yet. Watch what happens in New Camp. I don't think they haven't seen the best of us either. I don't think they've seen the best of us. I'm gonna go 3-2 Newcastle, and I'm gonna say I think Gordon for scorer. I think Gordon scores 2. And I think someone scores from a set piece. Malik Chow from a set piece. So Gordon with 2 goals and Malik Chow from a set piece. So let me know what you guys are saying. I'll go to the chats, and when we move over to the transfers in the moment, talk as well. But do feel free to continue talking about the game and send in your predictions. Adrian says BDB wins the pens with a Rabona. That would be epic. Like Rabona goes straight, it goes on the crossbar. Dave says, would love to see you at the games, Philip. Thank you, Dave. Yes, absolutely. I'll be amazing. The channel grows that much, and you guys see me doing that. Adrian says, the suspense killing me, Phil. I know, man. I know. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. The players, I know the players will feel it as well. Big game Gordon is like, I can't wait. And I think that's the feeling I get from the team and the players is like, it's not like I said, there's no arrogance, nothing like that. I can't wait. This is what the game's about. I can't wait for this, is what I think. And Barcelona are the overwhelming favourites. I saw this, I can't remember who the clip was. Someone sent it. I can't remember what the question was, but essentially it was between 2 characters. If Barcelona win, it's not unexpected, and it's just another champion. You know, they go through another quarter final, right? What's new? But if Newcastle win, that's something else. Now that's news, right? And I think there's a pressure on Barcelona. You're at the new camp. You're overwhelming favourites to win at the new camp. In fact, you're expected to smash little old Newcastle. Even when you deep down know Newcastle ain't that little. They're really big and they're strong and they're fast and they press and they scream and they got Joe Linton and they got Gordon and they got Ramsey, Tonali, it's not easy. The new camp aren't going to care. So let's see what happens there. So a couple more chats, but keep on sending them in, send your predictions. I'm going to move on and talk about the transfers in the moment, but you got my prediction. 3-2 Newcastle, 2 goals for Gordon, 1 goal from a set piece for Malik Chow. James says, I'll put one prediction in. Voldemort will score due to Hans Flick mention. What did Hans Flick say? David says, we turn up for the big games. Everyone will be on it tomorrow. Yeah. In fact, if we're fair to our team, people could say Sunderland, but like, it's very rare that we're not there. Like, we're there. We are all like, you see, we leave it out there. We do leave it out there. We do leave it out there. Right. I'm excited, man. Angel's excited. Dave's excited. James is excited. I know a few of you guys are excited, man. Like, everyone's big time excited for this game. All right. So, like I said, feel free to continue sending your predictions. I'm going to start talking about transfer stuff. Now, I want to first do it like this before I bring out the players, because I'm talking more and more about how I kind of seen the transfer window shaping up. There's going to be tons of twists and turns to it, and a lot of it is going to be about. Is it this one? I'll share this one. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, a lot of it's going to be about. It's difficult to know where we're at because a lot of it's going to be about where we finish, right? Are we going to finish in Europe, right? But I'm just going to, so you're going to see a lot of changes. So before I talk about the players, I want to kind of set the landscape. Now I'm going to be talking about midfielders. So I'll set the backs up. So let me talk about midfielders, right? So the last we had this on, obviously we talked about the Iron newspaper and how, according to Mark Douglas anyway, the overriding message when it came to the midfielders, yes, there's lots of links to Tonali and the likes, but when you hear of us when we are looking for a new midfielder, but we're looking for a new midfielder, it's not a replacement for Tonali, it's a replacement for for Joe Willock. And that was the message they gave to Mark Douglas. We're looking for a replacement for Joe Willock, who's ready to leave Newcastle. Which could be true, which could not be true. Well, not true, not like they're telling lies, but we don't know how the league is going to pan out. I, for one, you can see at the top screens here, new incumbents, keep, undecided, and leave, right? Or stay. Keep should really be stay. Or stay. Keep or stay, whatever it is, right? But I've got Tonali, maybe even Bruno, really, but like I said, for this transfer window, I'm going to stick to this mode of thinking at the moment is I do think we sell. We will sell 2 of our first team. Is it this one? Two of our first team players. Which one is it? I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, I am. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure I'm in the right place. Make sure you guys can see that as well. Yeah, you can. So, 2 our first teamers. So, we've now got lots of links. Tonali, Bruno Camarra, Gordon, Livramento. I think Livramento is highly likely to go, for instance. And I'm not going to go too far back, but that's the point. So that kind of leads me back to the midfield. So I've got Tonali, it could be Bruno, but I've got Tonali in the undecided section where he could go. And then the main reason why at the moment for me Tonali might not go is because He is on a 3.5-year contract. But the other thing is, the main thing is that unlike forwards, I think the market for midfielders is a lot bigger for the likes of Man United, who are shopping for a new midfielder, Liverpool, who are shopping for midfielders, City, a little bit less so, but will be shopping for midfielders. I think they're going for Elliot Anderson as well. Maybe outside, I haven't heard too much about PSG or Bayern Munich, but it's a possibility. So there's that market of top teams who got the money, right? But there's a lot of midfielders that are available. Like we mentioned, Elliot Anderson, Tonali, Baliba, Adam Morton, different types of midfielders, but midfielders nonetheless that are available, right? So, whereas we're already saying Tonali's going to cost anything 100 million up, I think really, if they get a package between 80 to 90, it'll be it won't be hard for them to turn down because they don't need the money. But Tonali, if he really wanted to go, he used to say, hey, these guys are offering you a lot of money and I want to go. And God forbid if we're not in the Champions League, for instance, or in Europe, it's a harder case to keep him in those circumstances. So there is a case where Newcastle could be looking for 2 midfielders, right? And we're going to look at 2 midfielders. Not that we'll replace them with 2. We're going to look at 2 midfielders. My main thinking is looking for a midfielder to replace Willock. That's going to be the key thing. But we're going to keep Tonali in mind. We are going to keep Tonali in mind or maybe Bruno Camarra, that we're looking for 2 midfielders. The good thing for Newcastle is this, because we're looking at the kind of a spoiler alert, we're looking for the midfielders are kind of looking at our 2 emerging talents, one less emerging than the other. We've got Ramsey already and Miley who are ready to step in, especially if a first teamer goes. So we're quite fortunate with that, and that allows us space to buy talent that's relatively potential. So I think that's one thing I want to kind of bring out there. But let me know what your thoughts are on that. So let's talk about midfielders. James says, I'm excited, definitely can't wait, even if it was going to be easy to get to Chelsea, but it may have been a different story. Yeah, absolutely. James says, the date that I have Leon Camarra shows he's going to be a real powerhouse, having assists and goals. Might be talking about him today. Dave says, Philip, what do you think of the Chelsea charges? Another slap on the wrist for a Big 16. Would be interesting to get Bobby's views and insights on a future video. Well, we're going to bring him back on in a couple of weeks when we'll talk about our accounts. But I've seen a few comments from Bobby, so I need to kind of check up on them. Because I don't know enough about their case, it's hard to give a really firm answer. I think what's disappointing about it is that the actual punishment won't be enforced until 2028, 2029 in terms of the transfer sanctions as well. Because I don't know the extent behind it, it's difficult to know how to really think about it. So if it was like systemic and they had Eden Hazard and all these players, then it's a liberty. But if and it's still cheating, but if they overpaid certain agents and went through, it's not good, but it's not as bad. I suppose there's something more systemic. It's difficult for me to comment, is what I'm saying, I guess. Right, so midfielders. Now, guys, I'm excited about having my data MB, so I've got to use that a little bit, but let's talk about it. Now, the 2 that have been linked to us, let me take the comment off for a minute, and kudos to some of you. I think James mentioned it as well. We've been linked to a Chema Anders, who's a 20-year-old Spanish midfielder, a regista, as has been described, and to obviously our man, I say obviously, but more recently, again, Lamine Camarra through the I newspaper, but we know we've been historically linked to him quite a bit for a number of years now. Now, Chema Anders on the left here is a little bit more, is new. You see this media link is actually from a German newspaper called, I think, Fußball or something like that. And it was on the 15th of March. Lamine Camarra, this information came out on the 12th of March, so quite recent information, obviously. And it's interesting that, as I mentioned before, Mark Douglas in the newspaper, through the people that were speaking to him, were saying, look, we're going to be linked to midfielders, but it's for Joe Willock. It's for Joe Willock. It's not necessarily for Tonali. So we'll see how that pans out. But the midfielders is here. Now, one of the reasons why, now, first of all, Lamine Camarra is like, the obvious reason is that we've been frequently linked to him over the years now, like 2-3 years now, right? And he's popped up again. And we know that Newcastle, how we are, we look at players for years. And eventually we end up going for them. Your João Pedros, your Ekatiques, your the players of that ilk that we've always kind of looked for and hunted and scouted. And obviously Lamine Camarra, the strength of this is obviously it's also come on the newspaper, which is a reputable newspaper. So it's important to talk about him. But then Chema Anders is a new link. The reason why I brought him up, though, is because, well, there's a number of qualities about him, and we'll talk about him, you'll get to see, that I think matches Eddie Howe's profile. But the main reason, and you guys who watch the show will know this, is that I like to do this, is that it's from a foreign newspaper. This, as far as I see it, and maybe you guys can correct me, this was released on the 15th of March. But before, maybe sometime after, I don't know how it is today, I haven't seen Chema Anders or Andreas name come up in English media. And we know that Newcastle like to keep the names under wraps, right? But the Germans, and this is written in German, I've just come out with it and said, hey, Chema Anders, Newcastle are really serious about him. And essentially what the article said was that we've been scouting him very, very, very seriously. And that we are, I think, competing with Crystal Palace or somebody for him. And what they're saying is, because he's currently, he's obviously currently with Stuttgart, but Real Madrid have a buyout clause for about 10, 15 million euros, and they'll trigger it. So really, Newcastle are having to talk to two teams, Stuttgart and, well, including the player as well, but Stuttgart and Barcelona when it comes to the buying and selling, right? And Barcelona are kind of looking at maybe a 30, 40 million euro deal, which is still doable. And it's a similar-ish or maybe a little bit more price for Lamine Camarra, though I think Lamine Camarra valuation probably deserves to be a little bit higher because he's a little bit older and got a little bit more experience. We'll talk about it more. But like I said, Chema Anders, why I've taken him interested in him is because it's come from a foreign outlet in Germany. And I feel like, and it's not come out in the English media. So which tells me that Newcastle have managed to keep it on the wraps here in England, because obviously they've got more control here in England, whether it's agents and kind of leaks from their own side, but they can't control what's happening in Germany. And so that is interesting to see that link as well. And obviously mentioned Lamine Camarra has been historically linked to us as well. So let's talk about the players. First of all, let's get their contract situations. Now, this is from Apology. And I'll come to the chats in a moment. But what's interesting is Chema Anders, who's 20 years old. This is his breakout season. When I say breakout season, it's the first time he's played in a first team to this extent. And I think he's played about 800, 900 minutes. We're going to see a little bit more of that, right? He's, described as a regista, control template, like a configure of a Sergio Busquets. Now, he's currently on 14,000 base salary euros, which is about £10,000. So not a lot at all. And you can already see the attraction from Newcastle in that situation, right? We talked about how if Willock leaves, We don't need like a big time senior or ready to go midfielder. We've got a lot of links to Elliot Anderson. I don't think we're going to pay 70, 80 million for Elliot Anderson. I don't think we're going to do that. But a Chema Anders, who we don't have to, play straight away, is less wages. We can double, triple his wages. He'll be happy with it. We'll have time to grow into the team that we've got. We're going to talk about his style of play and everything else. But like I said, he's on 18,000 euros or 3,000 bonus, so not a lot at all. We can double, triple, quadruple his salary, and he should still be very, very happy with what he has. So there's that for him. And this is his breakout season. And then we've got Lamine Camarra to our right, plays for Monaco, has been playing for the last couple of years. He's 22 years old, so he's 2 years older, right? Not that much older, but 2 years older. He's got a little bit more under his belt. He's currently on 26,500 euro base salary. If you add bonuses, it makes it to 33,000 a week or whatnot, right? So again, for Newcastle, for the wages we're paying at the moment, it's not a lot of money. We can double his wages. He'll be over the moon, and that's still well within our financial structure at this moment in time. Now, as mentioned, his contract runs out in 2029, so there's still a lot of leverage that Monaco will have. So that's important to know. He will turn 23, Lamine Camarra, in January the 1st. Chema Anders turns 21 April coming up, so he will be 21 this year. And his contract is a little bit more complicated where he's on a full-time contract with Stuttgart. Real Madrid have like a 10 million, 15 million pound euro buyback clause. So we're going to be negotiating with two clubs here if we're going to go for Chema. So that's the contractual situations of where they're at the moment. So both very, very affordable from a wages point of view, from what I can see. So let me see what you guys are saying so more about that. Dave says foreign news reporters will always leak signing potentials to create a bidding war. That is true between Premier League clubs. Newcastle have done the best business when there is zero noise and the player is just announced. True. It's true, but it's very, very difficult to keep it down. And you would have liked this. What I'll say is this: is that I'm more, what's the word I'm thinking about? I'm more confident about this because it hasn't been released in British newspapers, but more the foreign newspapers. That's why I'm a little bit more confident about that. So we'll see. James says, I know the Spanish kid would be a bit like Miko. Do you know what? You read my mind, James. That's exactly what I was thinking about. He reminds me of Nico Moreno, though he's kind of been more compared to Sergio Busquets, but he does remind me of Nico Moreno. So let me know what you took the thought right from my mind there. Right, so let's talk about them and their playing style. That's where their contract situation is at the moment. There was something I wanted to mention about their contracts. I forgot what it was. It skipped my mind. But I'm sure I'll remember whilst doing the show. So let me put this up. All right, so let me take off the comment. So that's their contract situation. That's where they're at. There's something I wanted to mention. It's skipping my mind though. There's something I wanted to mention. I remember. Right, so Lamine Camarra, as mentioned, he's 22 years old, so he's got like a 2-year head start on Mr. I nearly called him Mikel Marino, on Mr. What's his name? Chema. This is Chema's breakout season. Now, Lamine Camarra, even though he's 22 years old, he, at least from the year of, if we're looking at from really 24, 25 season, before that, obviously, he was 23, 24 League One. He was playing with, I can't see the team there, but he's been playing with senior players for a while now, really, even from League the second division where there's big players. He's been, bigger senior men like from 2022, 2023. He would have been like, that would have been 3, 4 years ago. So he would have been 17, he would have been 18, 19 years old. He's been playing with big senior players. He's got plenty of already kind of elite experience. If we're talking about playing for Monaco now, he's played like 36, 46 games for Monaco. Last year, played 2,000 minutes for them. That was his breakout season. This year has already played 1,200 minutes for Monaco as well. He's also played in the Champions League. I can't see it there because the thing is up, but he's played in the Champions League last year. He played 9 games in the Champions League, 610 minutes. This year, he played 6 games in the Champions League again, 560 minutes. So a lot of experience. And not only that, but he won the AFCON with Ivory Coast. So at the age of 22, he's won AFCON. He's played already like nearly 15 games in the Champions League, 1,000 minutes in the Champions League. He's already played 3,500 minutes in terms of elite football with Monaco as well. So at 22 years old, at age, he's young, but in terms of experience, he's got the experience of a 24, 25, 26-year-old, which is really, really, I think, attractive from a Newcastle point of view. Chema now is a little bit different. Chema, obviously, like I said, this is his breakout season. But before that, he was obviously playing for Real Madrid. He was in he started off as a youth for Levante youth before going to Madrid youth in 18-19 season when he would have been, this is about 8-9 years ago now. So you're looking at, he'd have been 12, 13 years old, right? So all his life he's known Real Madrid. And this is his breakout season. He's going to Stuttgart, he's gone to Germany. This is him getting his minutes. Real Madrid probably didn't want to let him go, but when you're that young and you're not going to get into the midfield of Tchouameni and Camavinga, you need to see what's out there. But Real Madrid took the wise choice of saying, we're going to still put a buyback clause on your 10, 50 million euros in case you turn out to be good. So this year he's played 800 minutes plus in the Bundesliga. So with 18 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. He's played nearly 500 minutes in the Europa League as well. So he's had nearly 1,300 minutes of football. So he's getting his European experience, and he's getting his kind of first team Bundesliga experience right now playing for Stuttgart. So he's having the year now that maybe Camarra had last season, a little bit the season before that as well. So this is his breakout season. So really, it's an emerging talent for sure as well. So their levels of experience are quite different at the moment as well. So that's interesting to see as well. So let me see what you guys are saying about it so far. His last match doesn't give me enough data. Says James, wait, so you played in the Ivory Coast and when he joined Senegal, weird. Sorry. Not Ivory Coast, James. Sorry, you're right. Senegal. He won the AFCON with Senegal. That was my understanding. He won the AFCON with Senegal. Thanks for catching that. For Lamine Camarra. So at the moment, obviously, Lamine Camarra's got the more experience, where this is a breakout season for Chema. Now, this is from the Data MB. This is looking at their season right now. Chema is in the blue, and Lamine Camarra is in the green. And we're going to look at also the teams that they play for as well. So remember how we read radars and kind of we're looking at radars and stats. We want to be able to look at them in the context of what the players are in. So Chema in his role for Stuttgart. So Chema, you can see here, he's in the blue, right? He's got outstanding percentiles in possessions won. He's at 97.6 percentile for possession won. He's at the elite of the elite. So he's a very, 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 very good ball winner. Like very, very good. Lamine Camarra isn't too far off. He's at 84 percentile. But Mr. Chema is at the elite level. And both are very similar in their dual percentage win percentage as well, which is fairly high for him. The other places where Chema excels at is the forward passing percentage, just getting the ball forward in front of him as well as forward passes, right? So when he's playing for Stuttgart, his main role is essentially that Sergio Busquets role for Barcelona, where he's a lot of the times in between the two centre backs, collecting the ball if they're playing out from the back, or he is obviously defending. He's staying back whilst the other team players go forward, their fullbacks go forward, and he stays at the back, cutting off passes, cutting off any kind of transition attacks and everything else. That's why his possession one is so high. His key passes and his carrying is very low. So you can tell that he's not really a risk taker. It could be an instruction or it could be him, but his risk taking with the ball and ball carrying is very low. That's not his forte. You can see with Camarra that he's in the green. Key passes are really high. That's a big thing of his in terms of so you know that in terms of how he plays, key passes, taking the risk with the ball carrying is also a little bit higher compared to compared to Chema. I'm just looking at where the stats are for it. I can't see it here, but you can see that it's a little bit higher than Chema's as well. But he's a little bit more involved in the play in terms of that. So you can tell that Lamine Camarra, main thing is just as he matches him quite well. Dual percentage is one, and excels at progressive passes, key passes, a little bit of ball carrying. And Chema's main thing is winning possession, quite even on the dual percentage is one, not too far off the progressive passes, but winning the passes quite different. So his role is quite different compared to Lamine Camarra. Lamine Camarra is not too dissimilar to what maybe Tonali or maybe even Joe Willock were doing in terms of not only winning the ball back, but carrying it, ball carrying it, and providing key passes where possible to get the team forward. So kind of to double down on that, Lamine Camarra's role for Monaco is that box-to-box midfielder. So you know what Jacob Ramsey does for us, what Joe Willock does for us. So it's not too far off that mold, though he's a bit more technical. So he's an all-action midfielder. He thrives in transitions. You can see that. That's why his key passes are so high. Progressive carries are not too high, but because he's still quite involved in kind of releasing the ball. But you will see his heat map before. That's the thing I missed to put on here, the heat maps. But if you can imagine the heat map for Lamine Camarra, it's hot, like all over the center of the pitch, especially, and not too far from the half spaces. Whereas Chema's is quite reserved, and it's more within his close to the goal compared to Lamine Camarra. So he's more. So Camarra's more likely to be in the half spaces, delivering key passes, threading balls through, whereas Chema is more likely to stay in the back, Sergio Busquets' role, winning the ball and passing it off to the creative players as soon as he can. So Chema's more of a deep line specialist, elite ball winner as well, like I said, and kind of protecting that back line. So they're quite different in their profiles. Now, I wanted to show you the context of what they're playing in if we're looking at radars, right? Monaco are in yellow, Stuttgart are in purple, and Newcastle are in orange. Now, what you'll notice is that Newcastle and Monaco are a little bit more closer in terms of styles of play and what they're doing. So you'll see that, for instance, they're not too dissimilar in terms of their counter-attacking play. They're quite evenly matched there. Physicality, pressing, Monaco would have got more goals, but you see it there. And attacking and possession. So we're quite a little bit more evenly matched. So we're both, quite vertical teams. We want to get the ball off early. We want to press high. We want to win the ball high. We want to be up in the tempo high. Whereas Stuttgart, the main place where they differ with both us and Monaco is that they have less attacking. They have a lot more possession as well. So they kind of resemble a little bit more like Chelsea in how they play, really. We've talked about Chelsea before as well. They're quite different. So you can imagine when Chema plays for a more possession heavy side in Stuttgart and what appears to be way less counter attacking. So they kind of, what that tells me, they have a little bit more slower counter attacking, and they're not as a transition team like Monaco and Newcastle are. So you can see why his key pass is so low, and you can see why and progressive passes are lower than Lamine Camarra. When Lamine Camarra is getting the ball, trying to be taking risk with the ball, trying to get it as high up the pitch and as quickly as the pitch as possible. So he kind of suits that style, and it kind of work. That I think you can see that working with Newcastle quite well as well. Chema, if we were to go to Chema, represents something a little bit more different, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, kind of going forward as well. So you can see the context of what they're playing. Stuttgart more possession heavy, Monaco more transition and counter attacking. Very, very, very similar to Newcastle in styles of play. So the Howe intensity, Monaco's high press, lethal counter attacking, all very similar to Newcastle, whereas obviously Stuttgart is more possession based. So that's the context of where they're playing. Now, who's more suitable for Newcastle, right? So, if you're Camarra, so if he was to play for Newcastle, he'd be more of a creative eight, right? So he fits the mold of a more technically gifted Joe Willock or a more mobile, strong long star, right? So he's got the higher key passes. He's a bit more creative than Joe Willock, but though he has the engine to be a Joe Willock in terms of and a Jacob Ramsey in terms of getting up the pitch. But he's more mobile, but he's also has a lot of stamina. He gets his tackles in. He's very intense in his play, but he's a bit more mobile, like a Show Longstaff, but a little bit more mobile than him. So he complements, if he was to play alongside Bruno Guimaraes, for instance, if you had a midfielder Bruno Guimaraes or Joe Linton or Miley, but if he plays alongside Bruno Guimaraes, he'll be like his legs. Bruno he's going to be, if he stays with Newcastle, he's going to be 29 next season. He's going to want to do less of the running. But if he's got the likes of Lamine Camarra doing the legwork, doing the heavy loading, it suits Bruno that way. So it allows Bruno to focus more on dictating the play, where create some other players as well. And that's how they can complement each other. Now, Chema, his role for us will be more as a lone six, right? A different style to a Lamine Camarra. So if Howe was to again say Bruno wants to be more of an advanced eight, you would have Chema protecting that back line. So you'd have Bruno going up, maybe a Jacob Ramsey going up, or Joe Linton going up, and a Talani if they stay up. So they'll be more focused on supporting the strikers up front. But Chema will be that man that will be protecting that back line. If the two centre backs split, he'll be the centre back in the middle, plays well from his back to goal as well. So he solves those problems. So again, there's less of a need for Bruno Guimaraes to have to drop in when we're kind of playing from out the back, but also less of a need for Bruno Guimaraes to have to run back or to fill gaps necessarily when you've got a Chema who's very, very good at that. And he's got the height and physicality to do that as well. It's very, very strong. One thing that said in that what was interesting about that German newspaper was they mentioned is that Newcastle scouts were keen to see if Chema had the physicality for the Premier League, and so far, and that he has passed those tests with flying colours. it's what made me think more confident in that article, because that is something that Newcastle will look for, right? So he's definitely, that'll be his role. So different style of midfielders. If we were to get Lamine Camarra in for Joe Willock, it's like an immediate. It's more like an immediate. You can see him uh, uh, fit in the system we have now as it is going. Whereas Chema would represent a more specialist in their position. You don't want Chema necessarily. You don't want to pigeonhole him too early, but Chema isn't going to be your all action, not all action number, advanced A who can play at the back. He is your Mikel Merino, Sergio Busquets type of player. He's more fixed, and what that allows us to have more advanced eights who are going to be more responsible for the creative side of things. It's quite different. Not impossible to change, but it's quite different in terms of why Newcastle are looking at him and how. And maybe it actually fits some of the situations we've had maybe with Tonali earlier in the season, where he was quite struggling in his position making because he wanted to be, especially in the transition, because he was playing advanced. Chema fixing that situation very, very quickly in terms of that as well. But Lamine Camarra probably fits Newcastle in terms of where we're at this moment as well. But who would you guys go for if it was the case that Joe Willock is sold? Who would you guys take? Would it be Lamine Camarra or would it be Chema? I would be keen to know from you guys as well. Now, we're going to look at a clip from Chema. We might look at a clip from Lamine Camarra as well, but because we've seen him before, actually, let's do it. We'll have a look at both of them before you get. But send in your thoughts. Some of you might have seen the players before, but I'll be keen to get you guys' thoughts on them in terms of where they're at. The other alternative as well, though, is while we're talking about it, is we sell Willock and we sell Tonali, in which case we have to bring in two midfielders. And if we were to bring in these two, me personally, I'll be quite happy about that. I wouldn't be, and this is me without me seeing Chema play though, to be honest. But from what I'm seeing, the scouting reports and what they're kind of reading off that, I wouldn't be putting it. I know more about Lamine Camarra than I do. In fact, I've watched Lamine Camarra play. I know more about Lamine Camarra than I do about Chema, and he suits the system a little bit more. But I wouldn't be. I could see the thinking behind why we're looking at Chema, if that makes sense. So in terms of what we're doing. All right, so let's have a look at Chema. Before we do that, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Big up, Leon. Good to see you, sir. God bless you. Good to see you. Lamine Camarra is perfect for us. Honestly, I think the Newcastle scout recruitment team, I certainly agree with you, and me too. And James says it is interesting to see how close generally I need in one passage play that they played at Stuttgart, and that's counter-attacking that I would have thought they were to have. It's just to see how close generally I need in one. I'm misreading that, James. Let me know what you mean. James said, Chema and Andres, if we could get both, we'll send him alone. If we were to get both. Yeah. Leon says we need both. I think we may have to do a midfield rebuild. That is true. I won't go as far as a midfield rebuild. I was saying earlier that because I feel like if both Tonali and Willock go, we've got Miley and Jacob Ramsey who are ready to step into those shoes like now. So it could be Miley, Jacob Ramsey, Bruno, Miley, Ramsey, Joe Linton straight away. And with Lamine Camarra and Chema Anders, it gives them time to bed in. So if that makes sense. But maybe you still see that as a rebuild. Obviously, two midfielders out, two midfielders in. I guess what I'm saying, it's not a rebuild. It is a rebuild and it isn't. So it's not a rebuild from the point of view where we haven't got anybody to replace them. We're starting again. we're not starting again, kind of thing. That's what Marley's been bred to do since he was born. He's ready to go, and we've seen what Jacob Ramsey can do, right? As well. And then the next lot coming in would be a Chema Anderson, Lamine Camarra types as well, is what I mean. But maybe we're saying the same thing, to be honest. James said Camarra for J7 or Sancho, if either of them go, and Chema for Willock and replacement. Yeah, I could see that. But let's have a look at Chema. It's my first time seeing him. I'm going to try and catch him. I was meant to see him recently. I didn't get a chance to, but I need to keep a tab on him and see him live. I've seen a lot more of Camarra. Mainly because I like Akliouche, but I've seen a lot more of a Camarra. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. All right, so let's have a look at... whoa, sorry. Let's have a look at Chema. And then remind ourselves a little bit about Camarra. So Chema's a tall guy. I didn't see how tall he was, by the way. Chema is a tall guy. How tall is he? 1.90 meters. How? What's that in feet? Does anybody know? 1.90 meters. If anyone in the chat can tell me how many feet that is, I want to say 6'2". So that's him there making the tackle. That's what he's there to do. You see him between the centre backs there, protecting the centre backs. That's his thing. That's what Chema wants to be doing. Again, back to goal. Beautiful. That was beautiful. And it's what you expect from a Real Madrid player. Yeah, he looks about 6'1", 6'2", as well. So you can get in there as well, get shots, get headers off as well. Again, winning the ball, that's his thing. Getting the players out there as well. So he does make advanced runs when he can do, by the looks of it. Lovely take as well, which you expect from him there as well. Got himself a goal. I think that's the one goal he got this season as well. So he can get into those advanced positions. And you know, when he's 20 years old, you can't pigeonhole them too much. But yeah, great winning the ball there. Again, speaking about why Newcastle is high, his physicality is really, really good. That's clear. Back to goal is very, very good. You can imagine since he's been playing for the Real Madrid Academy since he was about 12, 13 years old. His technical skills are going to be very, very, very good as well. So that's not a surprise. Again, look, back to goal in front of the two defenders. That's what you want him. He's way more of a specialist in terms of that situation as well. But really, really good there. Winning headers, again, big, strong. Wins the ball. All he wants to do again is to back to goal again. Gets himself a foul there. He's in the right, some dangerous areas there, getting wins up as well. See one more as well, a couple more images and see what you guys think. Again, collects the ball, gets it up there, back to goal, lovely take, and go. So that, in a nutshell, is Chema. Very, very interesting player to observe. Let me load up Lamine Camarra, and then we will have. Let me know what you guys are saying. And we've done Lamine Camarra a good couple of times. That's how we know. Got himself a Brazil scout as well. So, all right. So let me see if there's anybody else in the chat. 6'4". He's 6'4", James. Wow. So he's even taller than I first thought. So I'm not surprised that we're looking at him. If anything, if there's one advantage he has over Camarra, is the height advantage. Now, interesting. Brazil scout have matched Camarra with João Neves, Elliot Anderson. We talked about those all-action midfielders. It's so interesting that Camarra has been matched to a former Newcastle United player, Eddie Howe Newcastle United player. Right, so we talked about that's another player I should have really met. I could have seen obviously Joe Willock and Jacob Ramsey, but Elliot Anderson is a good matchup as well in terms of that. Let's have a couple minutes of Camarra. Again, remember, lots of Champions League experience, lots of AFCON experience. He's a winner there, international football. That's the key passes we're talking about. So he is creative, but then look at that recovery pace. Lovely, lovely tackle there. And that's what he does. Those type of challenges there. Release, give and go. So you can see that he takes a lot more. From what we saw against Chema, we didn't see too many of those with Chema. You can see him taking the ball, driving with it. Lovely take as well. So Eddie Howe would use him more as an 8. All action, lung busting 8. And he'll be the legs behind like a Bruno Gomes when they're playing. For instance, look at that. Pings the ball as well. I love to see what he is back to with his back to goal. Oh, what a goal. Look at that. Goodness. Was that Akaliush that finished that? I don't think it was actually. Again, great recovery challenges there. Again, key pass straight away to Akaliush this time. Let's see one more clip of him. Wins the ball. First time. Brilliant ball. So you can see where he's got that. He's got the Elliot Anderson about him as well. So they're both midfielders, but they're quite different midfielders as well. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are on that. I'll be keen to see what you guys think. James says, I see elements of his game being a bit like Bruno. Those aggressive passes, yeah. Getting towards the second box quite quickly. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Leon Oliver says, what's realistic incoming wise this summer? It's difficult to tell, from my opinion, Leon, because we don't know where we finish. If we finish with no European football, for instance, obviously, then I think our choices are a little bit smaller, right? But if we manage to get some European football, if we get Champions League football, then we could get the likes of Lamine Camarras and others as well. But so it's difficult to say. But I feel like obviously we spoke about Chema, like this is his breakout season. He's 20 years old. Players like him, I think that's why we're looking at both Chema and Lamine Camarra. If you're Lamine Camarra, I wouldn't be surprised if Champions League teams are looking at him. So that might be a tougher go. Whereas Chema, 20 years old, and a little bit more risk has to be taken because he's 20 years old. He may not even be looking himself for a Champions League team quite yet. He will feel that he has time on his side, for instance, right? Whereas Lamine at 22 already played Champions League, played at the top level, Monaco, AFCON winner, might feel differently. But going to Europe, bigger pay packet, if you're playing for Newcastle, might still sway him. But ideally, we would want European football. We would want European football. So, but let me know what you think. What do you think is realistic? I think both are realistic. I think if we get Europa Conference and up, both are realistic. So I've updated my table. I want to show you guys before I wrap up the show. There's going to be a lot there. There's tons of midfielders, but I've updated my table. Is it this one? No, this one. I've updated my table. So make sure you guys can see that. So why I've got Chema and Lamine Camarra there, with the likes of Tonali, for instance, undecided, and Willock very likely to leave. I agree with you guys that as Newcastle are at this moment in time, and what we're trying to do, Lamine Camarra fits in perfectly without kind of having to change things too much. But if Tonali and Willock go, it represents an opportunity for Newcastle to add a different profile of midfielder, right? Because you'll have Chema replacing what Willock has left behind. But Tonali, who kind of had the Chema role for us, where he's the one that who most often kind of defends the transition and wins the ball, but he's not a specialist like that necessarily. He obviously is more advanced. And Chema is a specialist, and he wants to play in that register role. It's quite different. So you can have Chema provides that balance. So Chema provides that balance where he can play in this situation. He can play, and he can have a Bruno and Joe Linton on either side of him, or a Ramsey and Miley either side of him, or a Ramsey and Lamine Camarra if we have both either side of him. Chema's that 6 that protects the back 3. So he's got a very defined role. And at 20 years old, and for the wage packet which won't be a lot, the fee is very, very doable. And if we were to sell Tonali for 80 million, I know Newcastle is 100 million plus. I think we're looking at more 80, 90 million, say 80 million. Joe Willock for 20 million, 100 million there. And we managed to get a Chema. It doesn't have to be Chema and Lamine Camarra, but you guys know what I mean. A Chema type and Lamine Camarra type for, anywhere between 70 to 90 million. It represents good business. But tell me, guys, would it be a downgrade in your eyes if both Tonali and Willock leave and we get players? Obviously, we're talking about Lamine Camarra and Chema, but we can also talk about maybe of the profile of a Lamine Camarra and Chema. Would you be disappointed that, I've been disappointed if Tonali leaves, obviously, and God bless Willock as well, but obviously it's about kind of what's on the pitch. I've been disappointed if Tonali leaves, but I've been really disappointed if Bruno left. But would you guys see that as a downgrade? Would you see it as a downgrade if we were to lose Tonali, and obviously Willock on top of that? Would you see Chema and Lamine Camarra as a downgrade? What if we? I'll be keen to get your guys' views. Me personally, I wouldn't see it as a downgrade, just because Jacob Murphy and Miley, I think, more than fill the gap of a Tonali, and it still gives room for the likes of Chema and or Lamine Camarra, or the other way around, to come into the squad and have time to integrate and to kind of and to allow themselves to grow and develop and to make mistakes, because we've still got these, we've still got a lot of experiences. It would be a loss, a really bad loss to lose Tonali. But if I'm thinking flexibly, like, it wouldn't mind. But to get Lamine Camarra, I think Europe is going to be important. But let me know you guys' thoughts. All right, so James says, technically, no, Camarra is definitely the most senior player, more experienced in Champions League runs. He is, absolutely. Leon says, if we're losing Willock and Tonali, I would want Anderson and one of those, but we won't pay the money, unfortunately. Absolutely. I don't think we're paying money for Anderson. I don't think where we are at the moment, it makes sense. And when you're Anderson, you're talking to City, Bayern Munich and stuff like that, and the wages they'll be offering him. Now, you'd imagine that him being a Geordie boy and everything else, but if we're taking a cold, hard, objective look, we're saying he's gonna wanna, spread his wings essentially and get his worth. Me personally, I think we can manage. I think we can more than manage. I don't see it necessarily as a step backwards, just because I think Jacob Ramsey and Lewis Miley fill those gaps quite well, and it leaves room for the likes of Camarra and Chema coming in as well. I'm thinking next week I'm going to be talking more about centre backs. There's a few centre backs that have been linked to, but we'll see. I think the main one I really want to talk about is our forward line. Because the one player I'm I'm more keen than like others almost. It's getting right to the top of our list. I feel like we have to keep, but I'm worried that it's going to be very hard to, especially if the right offer comes along. It's going to be Anthony Gordon. So we're going to talk about that probably next week. But let's see what Leon says. All depends what we do with right back situation because Miley did a great job there, and Trippier, and things future ain't certain. I think Tino's going to go. And we're going to talk about that. That's why I talk about centre backs and right backs. We're going to be talking about that as well. So I think Tino is going to go. And there's a lot of work to be done there. There's a big rebuild job as well. We read a newspaper from the newspaper talked about a lot about rebuild and reshaping the squad. There's going to be a lot of that going on. But guys, it's been absolutely amazing and outstanding talking with you guys. We did the match reaction to the Chelsea game. Great away win, a good away win. As well, I feel like the result matched the performance. And it carried on our 2 out of 2 Premier League winning run. Beating Man United with 10 men, then beating Chelsea away was phenomenal from us. And we did the match preview for the Barcelona game. As Adrian put it, look, there's a chance that we go and, I believe, like I said, my main thing is I think we can beat Barcelona. But that doesn't mean that I know there's a good chance that they don't play us off the park. That is a possibility, but I just think we've got the right tools, as Adrian put it as well. They've got the right tools and the right, to really cause an upset there as well. And I backed us to win it 3-2. Then we did some transfer talk and scouting profile for Chema Anders, who I'm going to be following a little bit more closely, and Lamine Camarra. I would love to have either or both of those players join Newcastle. And in my opinion, if we were to lose Tonali on top of losing Willock, I think Willock is going. But if we were to lose, ideally we keep Tonali and then add Lamine Camarra and or Chema. But if we were to lose Tonali and Willock, I believe the midfield will still maintain this level because of a Jacob Ramsey and Miley ready to step in, and it gives time for the likes of Lamine Camarra and Chema, those type of players, to merge with the squad and continue the good work that's been done with the midfield as well. So I'm liking the players that we're scouting. But as always, folks, it's been amazing doing the show with you guys, liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. Tomorrow's a big day. Big day. We're excited. I think the players are excited. I'm backing us to get it over the line. And then we're going to have Sunderland at home. And we're going to be doing the preview for that game. And hopefully we'll be doing that game on the back of an incredible win at the Newcastle. Because then we'll be hoping to eat Sunderland alive before the international break. That'll be a great international break if we're heading into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, we're beating the Mackhams, and we're climbing higher the table. That'll be a great international break, and I'm hopefully praying for that as well. Make sure you guys are looking after yourselves. And as always, folks, God bless you.